Okay. All right, it's 3:06, and we will call today's Parks and Greenway Advisory Committee meeting to order. First point on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve? Thank you. Second. Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Wonderful. And then next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from January 8th, 2025 meeting. Do I have a motion? Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Wonderful. Great. Next, we're going to move forward with our public forum. We have a member of the community here today that would like to speak, Mr. Wilson Sims.
Hey, it's Wilson Sims, 303 Ava Lane, just right up the street, and been in Woodfin since 2019. A long time ago, I was chairman of the kind of coordinator of the Greenways back in the early 2000s, up through about 13 or 14. So really excited about the progress and what's going on with the Greenways. And I offered some questions, just kind of watching quietly over the last 8 years since the contract with Buncombe County has been let. I've been kind of watching, and so I raised these questions for the commissioners the other night, and got some good responses. It cleared up some of my misinformation, some of the perspectives that I had. Shannon cleared up for me. But I just want to read you the questions because we had the same technical difficulty. I thought I was, but it wasn't transmitted to the, for those questions. So I said, I'll just come to committee and make sure you all get a copy of them if that's okay with you. So thank you. So I said, Mayor McAllister and commissioners and staff, thank you for considering these 6 questions about the 2 greenways that obviously you're working in partnership with Buncombe County for building. Number 1, reference the funding committed to the Woodfin Greenways post-Helene. What is the status of the federally committed funds? Who's checking and reporting if they're still committed? And Shannon got back to me on those. So I think that's a question that a lot of people are wondering about is, EECs, you know, are we still good with those? Number 2, post-Helene, are there now new construction guidelines that the 2 Woodfin Greenways should incorporate? So, you know, obviously things are different. So just wanted to see if you all are kind of on top of that and looking at what's needed there as we go forward for the construction guidelines. And then number 3, of the 6 questions, Woodfin's 2017 agreement with Buncombe County, I asked, do you have a copy of this agreement and frequently refer to it? And Shannon said it needs updating and that they hope to update it frequently, but I assume you all have a copy of it and are looking at what Buncombe County said it was going to do and what they're doing, and your agreement is part of the work that you have, part of your information. What does it say about Buncombe County providing updates to Woodfin on the construction progress, including maintaining the current updated Greenway budget? Can the agreement and the budget be handed out at the next town council meeting, I asked. I didn't get a response on that, but I asked a lot, you know, it probably will be. So number 4, remind us, because everybody's always confused by this. Who's paying for Buncombe County's work? And of course, Shannon cleared me up on that Buncombe County is, and not Woodfin, on our greenways, and how much Buncombe County greenways have cost over the last 8 years. That'd be a good thing to know. How much has it cost, and what have we gotten for our money? And has there ever been an audit since 2017 on this project? Just curious if there's ever been consideration of that. And number 5, what were Buncombe County's 2024 Woodfin Greenway objectives, and what was accomplished towards those? Be interesting to hear that. And what are the 2025 objectives for the Greenways? And number 6, in contrast, the Woodfin wave transparency is unbelievably fabulous, fabulous. There's reporting, clarity about what's going on, their tours, citizen involvement, oversight with Baker. Construction seems to be good to excellent. Why does this same model not exist for the Greenways? In closing, I understand that now that part of the issue is that Buncombe County amalgamates all of its information and doesn't break out your 2 Greenways. So you can't really look at the data. This is what I understand. You can't really look at the data for the Bowcatcher Greenway or the French Broad Greenway because they're lumped together with the other. And I was going, why is that? Why don't we say, can you send us the information? What's the timeline? What are the objectives? What's the next steps? Business practices like what's going well? What do you think needs improving? The typical SWOT analysis. And so because otherwise I feel like you guys are going blind if you don't have the specific data on the 2 Greenways. I mean, these are our Greenways. I'm always a little concerned when somebody says, "Oh, we'll do this for you. Don't worry. We're going to do this at no charge." I mean, it's like, okay, guys, where's the oversight and the reporting and the business-like best practices? And I just hadn't seen any in 8 years. And I'm asking, this is my first meeting. I apologize for not being more involved with you guys. But I'm delighted you're here. I love the Greenways, and I'm excited about going forward. So Woodfin needs transparency around this partnership with Buncombe County, including citizen oversight. Believe these 2 Greenway projects may be Woodfin's largest partnership projects possibly in town history. I don't know, but I mean, they could be by far the biggest projects Woodfin's ever done before when you lump them both together. And yet, as far as one can see, there's very little, if any, business best practices, performance-driven reviews, public reporting, Woodfin oversight, and project transparency that I or anybody I talk with, I ask them these questions, and that they haven't seen anything like this. So anyway, I shared this with the commissioners the other evening, and I thought it'd probably be best to share it with you as well. So I appreciate what you're doing. Excited about the Greenways and going forward.
Thank you very much.
Wilson, I have a question. Did you get a response to those answers?
I did from Shannon was great. She responded to every one of them.
Okay.
Not all I mean, a lot of it was on the reporting and stuff. It's just she responded to what she could on those.
Can we get a copy of those? Just curious. I'd like to know those answers as well. Okay, great. Thank you.
Adam.
Thanks again.
Thank you, Wilson. Sure.
Do we have any other members of the public, from the public, that would like to participate today? Okay, excellent. Well, we have some new members. So we're going to have our new members starting with Katie Cox. We've got Melissa Drennan and Adam Smith joining our committee. So if we could just take a few minutes, everyone say hello, share a little bit about your background and what excites you about being part of this committee. Should I start? Please.
I am Katie Cox. I am excited to be a part of this committee because I've been for the last couple of years working with some other neighbors to start a community garden in Woodfin, and I'm happy to say that is recently been making progress, and we're hoping to start planting things, building out the infrastructure of the garden and planting things this year. And I hoping that that's going to go really well, and maybe that can be expanded into other parts of the community. And I also have been a part of the Walk Bike Woodfin Advisory Board, I think is what we call it. Just kind of trying to figure out how people are experiencing moving through town and how that can be improved. So I am a part-time bike commuter on an electric bike, and so I have some personal experience with what that's like. Yeah, and just like, how ways that we can make the community more interesting and pleasant to be in. And yeah, those are my reasons for being here.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, so thanks for inviting me to join also.
Welcome. Adam, you want to share a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, thanks so much for having me, as it's wonderful to be here with you all. I was born and raised in Asheville, grew up here. My mom's family's been here since the 1700s, so I feel a deep connection to this area. I went to Appalachian State and got my degree in recreation management, concentrating in outdoor education, and I spent most of my career up to my current job in outdoor education and recreation, mostly out in Colorado and California. My last job was, my current one was as a program manager for a youth mountain biking organization that worked specifically with underserved kids in the Bay Area, getting them out mountain biking and connected with nature. So I'm still on the board for that organization, and I'm also on the very similar board for a similar organization for a program in Aspen, Colorado, getting kids out mountain biking and cycling. So I'm very happy to be part of those. And I wanted to bring my experience out west and in my career in the outdoor recreation industry here back home to Woodfin. Now happy to be part of this community and see what I can contribute, and specifically in working on the Greenways and making Woodfin more bikeable and walkable. And then, of course, after Helene, trying to help fix up our riversides and our parks. So happy to be here with you all. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, I will echo Katie and Adam and be very happy to be a part of this group and excited for the opportunity to help improve the quality of life here in Woodfin. I've lived in Woodfin for 22 years now. I live on Skyland Circle, just around the corner, walked here. I also try to use walk and bike as transportation routinely and see some of the challenges there. I remember living in Woodfin before we even had the sidewalk on Elk Mountain Road, and what a difference it made just to get that sidewalk into the community. My background is in business management. I have an MBA with an emphasis in finance, so hopefully those types of project management skills will be helpful for this group. But I'm just really excited for an opportunity to be a part of what this group is doing to help improve our community.
It's wonderful. Thank you.
Welcome.
Eric, do you want to start, and existing members can say hello, so our new members can
Sure,
get a feel for who we are?
sure. I'm Eric Barsati. I'm with the Wild Western North Carolina. I live in Woodfin and have lived in Woodfin for over a decade and raising my family in Woodfin. So I certainly care about the greater Western North Carolina community, but in particular, Woodfin and all it has to offer, in my immediate proximity. And I've been on the committee for probably over a year now, and trying to find ways to help this community and in ways that maybe can incorporate the Y in the audience and the membership base that we have as well.
Excellent. So I met you earlier, but I'm Coral Darby, and I have been in Woodfin for 20 years. So I love living in Woodfin. I'm very much committed to being the best community member that I can be. I also own a communications firm in downtown Asheville, and I'm slowly phasing out. So I'm finding at this point in my life, it's time to give back as much as I can. And so, yeah, I'm one of the original members. And as I mentioned, this is year 4 for me. And I am enjoying chairing this committee, and we'll talk later about appointing a new vice chair. But yeah, it's great to meet you all.
I'm Ann Coltwriter, and I've been on the committee since the beginning with Coral. I have 2 children that went to Woodfin Elementary and have been involved with the Woodfin 5K since, I don't know, 2000. Come on, Ann. Maybe 16, 15 or 16, and I've lived in Woodfin since 2006 over on the south side off of Lookout Road. And supportive in all ways, gardens, and my husband is a bike commuter, so appreciate all the support for safe biking around here. Yeah, that's it.
I'm Gerald Green. I moved to Brevard in 1982 and started paddling the French Broad, got real interested in the river. And I served on the French Broad River Foundation Board of Directors from the late mid 1980s to the early 1990s. One of the best things of that was working with Gene Webb and then Karen Craig Nolan, but the biggest honor was working with Dr. Rick Moss to set up the Volunteer Water Information Network. We had about 100 volunteers sampling water, both in the river and the streams which fed it. And so that was fun. I moved to Asheville in '89 and continued my involvement with the river. And I'm glad you liked the sidewalk. My firm did the worked with Woodfin to go to Safe Routes to School grant for that, and then did the design and the project management. And my wife and I have owned property in Woodfin for about 20 years.
Awesome. My name is David Clark. I live in Woodfin over there near Adam. We can see each other's houses up there. And then I work in Woodfin at French Broad River Academy. I have been there for 14 years. I'm an avid whitewater paddler, and when I'm not hurt, I bike commute down Elk Mountain and back up the sidewalk as well. And and I have my 2 girls that I'm raising here in Woodfin, so just want to make it the best community.
We went to the same program at Appalachian State too, 1 year apart.
Yes.
Love it. Okay. Ongoing business. So next up, Woodfin Arts Program.
Just the next slide. Okay. Well, hello, everybody. This is just a little update on our arts program that we spoke of last time. We'll talk about the cleanup in a little bit towards the end here, but I just wanted to start because I got the budget parsed out. So this is a good overall estimate because a lot of the materials that we will be purchasing will be used. The budget will range. It really there's a lot of the new materials we will be purchasing for it will be like adhesives, things that will hold the pieces together. And I did decide that instead of, because we had this whole plan to make it where we would have a call and have other people lead other workshops and stuff. We're going to try and give the first series a go that I'm teaching and then see how that goes. And then after that, we'll kind of tweak it and work out everything.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. Can you just give
An
a brief
overview?
background
Yeah, totally.
so that our new members can understand
Absolutely.
this initiative that you put together, this
Yeah.
wonderful initiative for the community? Thank you.
Yeah, totally. So I have a plan for some eco art workshops, a series of them. It'll kind of be it's all based around Helene. So it's kind of a communal, healing series, basically. And each one will have a different practice, but they'll all include how to, learning how to have a sustainable art practice. So for instance, here I can show you, we'll skip ahead a little bit. I can show you what the first one will be. So it'll be a mixed media course basically, and we're going to spread it out. It'll be accessible. So it'll be from, mid high school to any age, really. Anybody can participate. And we'll do it once a week in the afternoons.
Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you. Could you repeat that?
Sorry, guys. No, Siri, you cannot. Hey, I don't know about that. But anyway, so it'll be accessible. So it'll be like once, a week, every week for 4 weeks. And then it'll be like, an hour or two in the evening. And then on the 5th week, we'll have like a week break for everybody to finish their pieces. And then on the 5th, I guess it would be the 6th week, the 5th meeting, we'll all get together and everybody will review each other's pieces and we'll all kind of talk about it. And it'll range from this mixed media one that I want to do, 2D drawing, painting, anywhere from singing, all of that kind of stuff, music, performance arts. But I just I was saying earlier that like, I want to get through this one and we'll see how that goes. And then after that, we can kind of like make our call for other, because I can't teach painting. I'm not a painter. I can't, I don't play any instruments or anything. So yeah, that's pretty much, that explain it enough? Y'all understand enough? Okay. Yeah. So yeah, but this is basically what we'll be going through in the first one. It's all with an underlying theme and overarching theme of communal cohesion post-Helene, basically. So yeah, and this is like what that's the outcomes for the learning, pretty much. It's pretty simple when it comes down to it, but I think art is therapy, and I've done like a workshop like this before. I've led a workshop like this before, and people really, really enjoy it. We'll be using debris from the storm. So I think it'll be very interesting. I collected some debris from the cleanup before we left. So, but I meant to go back to this, but back to the budget for it. So this is like an estimate for like all like 3 of the series, basically. So this will cover cost for materials for most of the workshops, pretty much. So it's not just this one. So the materials will be purchased from like Ace, which we'll get a lot of the adhesives and stuff. Blick has a lot of that stuff. We'll have to order online. And we'll go to Cheap Joe's for like what we can get here. And then there are, thrift stores, that kind of stuff. I'll go hit those up and find a bunch of stuff. But those 2 websites at the bottom are both used art materials websites that I found that are like so amazing. I really wish we had an art thrift store here. I'm from Cincinnati and we have this amazing art thrift store that like could just help, like they would probably give us money, you know what I mean? So I wish we had a place like that, but we don't. So I would rather order used than not, and you get more interesting materials that way too. But yeah, so overall it'll be around from 800 to 1,000 altogether. And then I guess, and this is without consideration of a rental space if we do have to rent one. And then it is without consideration of future cost if we do decide to hire workshop leaders. It's without that consideration, but I mean, each leader would probably get paid between 100 and 200 if they were to because I want to compensate the other artists who end up eventually contributing if they do. But that's pretty much it. I have handouts that I'm finishing up for this one, and then when I finish those up, I will send them to everybody. I have my lesson plan all finished for it. It was lucky because since I've led this before, I went back and I took my old lesson plan and retailored it to fit this. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Have you determined where you'll facilitate these sessions?
Not yet, because Adrian, we were talking about at the Y, or
Eric, can you elaborate?
Clarify.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, we have conference spaces that you would be able to use. And
Okay.
assuming this would be in the evening,
Mhm.
fully accommodate that. I guess that when we look at the mixed media side of things,
Mhm.
and then we need to kind of hash out what kind of items will be coming in, because it is more of an office meeting space,
Okay.
more than an art space. Not to say that could be,
We can put down tarps and
But we
stuff
can-
too.
happy to talk about what that looks like or what that aspect looks like.
Okay, yeah. So if that takes care of that, as long as, because Adrian was saying that you guys have an arts program there as well, and I just wanted to make sure that none of this would like overlap with that or take away from or interject, So as long as that's the case, I would love to use the Y as a.
Yeah, let's continue that conversation. I'm happy to help.
Absolutely. Okay, we can figure it out.
I will add too, because I reached out to Eric to ask him about, because I work out at the Woodfin Y, and I saw the flyer, and I was so pleased when you responded and said the classes are waitlisted, which is a great sign that there's a demand for these classes.
For sure. And I was talking to people about it at the cleanup both days, and everybody was super interested because it's something unique and, it's accessible and it'll be free. And like, it's just a chance to get to know your community and like create something in turn. So
How often what's the spacing between the first one and the second one?
So if the first one works out, I would hope to have the second one going by like, because I want to try to get this going by first week April. Like that's kind of the goal here. I think it gives me enough time to finish up everything, start advertising for it, get people registered and stuff like that. But I would hope by like, since it is 5 weeks long, basically. It would just go month to month, pretty much. Each series would be month to month, right? And maybe even like the second one would start like the same week as the last meeting of the first one, So it would be like not super overlap, but just like, it wouldn't be on the same day or something like that. We would have to figure out those kinds of logistics too. But yeah, I think it would be like month to month.
That way, keep people interested and keep them rolling.
Right. Yeah. Like keep them going if they want to do it again, or if like they're like, oh, I need to take this month off, I'll do the next one or what have you. So. And
what is neoliberal capitalism?
It's just talking about it's about the system that's in place right now and talking about how that has contributed to the American waste problem, basically relating how our system functions, like government system functions, to how like consumerism has progressed over the years. Basically, that's how it is. It's not political. It's just the structure of it, basically. Yeah. Yeah. It's like that's like my whole deal is talking about that stuff. So yeah, if you want to talk about that more one-on-one, I'm down.
Suggestion and a question. There's a place in Durham called Scrap Exchange.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that came up in your research for used materials, but
I actually did. So the one I was talking about back home, they actually have a map of all of the art thrift stores in the country, pretty much. They were building it. It was on there. Yeah. I could contact them. They want to ship stuff to me for this. They might. Sometimes, it's like about cold calls. Sometimes they'll do it to get their name out there or get the message out there. So it'll be worth checking out.
My friend from high school managed that place for a bunch of years, so I don't know if she still is. But I could reach out.
Yeah. If you want to find out about that could help us out a lot.
It's so cool to have a location here too.
For sure. I've thought about it and like, trust me, we need a nonprofit art thrift store so badly here. There's one up in Mars Hill too, I thought, but that's like far and I don't have a car.
Sounds like an opportunity.
Really does.
And then I don't know if I missed this, but are the classes free?
Yes.
Okay.
Fully free. That's like the whole thing behind it is I don't want to prevent anybody from being able to come if they want to. Like, it might be a bit, the subject matter and the teachings might be a bit tough for like younger kids to really understand, but they could still participate in the actual building. Like say if somebody wanted to bring their kid or like mid high school student wanted to come, they might not get everything, but they would still learn something and take something from it to justify them being there and still have fun. So, yeah.
So what do you need from us? Because this sounds great from the illustrious Parks and Greenways Advisory Committee.
Right.
Do we need to recommend this budget be approved for this program, or is that what the
I guess so. Yeah, that would help. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we need to
Mhm.
recommend.
And
that.
I can send the full Excel sheet out to everybody too. I just didn't want to like everybody just have to look at a long drawn out kind of semi-confusing Excel sheet on the screen. So
And are you receiving a stipend for doing this, or you just out of the goodness of your heart?
I'm through AmeriCorps.
Oh, okay.
So I am, this is just, I'm not going to be paid like any other artist leader would. I'm just doing it because I've done it, like I know how, and I want to make sure that it's done how like I've written it out. And so I can like see what needs changed and stuff. So yeah, I'm not getting anything extra from what I get from my AmeriCorps stipend. Yeah.
So for the people that are new to the committee, Zoe is an AmeriCorps member who's been working with the town for over a year now as our volunteer coordinator.
Awesome.
And when we expanded the scope of this committee, we asked her to look into some of these options. And so she came up with this plan for the art program. She came to the committee in January and presented the initial idea behind it. And they said, yeah, it sounds great. So she went back and has been working on actually implementing the program. And so she's recommending the budget and letting you know that she's wanting to get started 1st of April. So she's just kind of looking for your okay or your, I guess recommendation would be the word for moving forward with that.
Does it need to be a formal, like a motion, or do we just, are we all ready to, can we make a recommendation today?
You can,
Is that
yes.
Okay.
So is the money there in the town to fund it? Like, where is the money
We
coming?
can, yeah. we
It's
can-
because it's, I think part of it is because it's helping the comprehensive plan because it's integrative. So it hits on education and it also hits on public arts.
So if I understand correctly, we're approving a recommendation that would go to the town council and then they would allocate from the
General
Woodfin.
fund or something.
That's my understanding. Shannon, is that,
Well, so in this particular case, because this is it's within the scope of the work that Zoe does for the town, and it's a very small budget.
Mhm.
So it really doesn't require any kind of budget amendment or anything like that. So I think just knowing that we have the committee's support, that you guys, this is a good idea and you want to see it move forward, I think that's great.
I think we articulated that maybe last session. I feel like we were.
I think you did too, but we wanted to show you how much it was going to cost and give you a time frame of when it would happen. So that's what she's doing today.
Is it 800 to 1,000 per month per session, or just for?
It would be for 800 to 1,000 for at least the first 3 series, which is what I'm calling each workshop as a series.
So per quarter, basically.
Sure.
Roughly. Okay.
Melissa, did you have a
Oh, no, that
comment or
answered my
question?
question. Thank you.
The Woodfin 5K is April 27th.
Yes.
If there is an interest in displaying people's work and it actually starts, the workshop starts on the 1st, that's like 4 weeks and a little bit of another week where we could see if they would be up for, if people are interested in displaying their work for the public and the town kind of an arts program and advertising for futures, I think that could be
That'd be a great opportunity for sure. Yeah, I mean, if people would be finished and everything and be open to doing that, absolutely. So I'm always down to integrate like this stuff. So we were talking about like the community garden or something like that. Like I think integrating this and other things makes it even more public arts, which is, like it's not just, it wouldn't be public arts in the sense of we're getting the public there. It would be the public can see it. So yeah.
maybe it's a part, I think the town has often had a table there, like last year, I think you were there talking about stormwater. Maybe, or
Yeah, we
something
had
like
our
that.
stormwater person there, yeah.
Maybe it could be a part of the town's table.
Yeah.
So it is sort of the town's contribution in a way.
We could even have like a little offshoot or like with like a mini outdoor gallery or something. 'Cause I'm trying to have it, see if some people want to try to make them displayable outdoors and like resilient against the outdoors. 'Cause that's what a lot of mixed media pieces can be done that way. And so, yeah, that would be really cool.
Okay, I'll check in.
And maybe at the very least, it's a platform to showcase the next 2
Yeah.
sessions.
Right. Which would be 2D drawing and writing.
Yeah, you could have signups right there and then.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great idea.
And you said you've already got enough interest. You've got a wait list on the first one?
No, for the YMCA one. So that means the people who are on that wait list could potentially be wanting to do.
Okay.
Yeah, there's an audience for it. There's people who are interested in this type of thing.
How is it being marketed?
I would just do the normal flyering through social media. I know that our partner organizations like Greenworks and Mountain True, they're always down to help support and spread the word about things. And after working the cleanup last weekend with them, they're all down to help us out with pretty much anything. So I think that having them.
Yeah, I agree. And I can ask Riverlink too, if they'd be
Yeah.
willing.
Oh yeah. Renee would be open to that, I think. Yeah. I would just hit up all of our partners and stuff basically. And
How many slots are there?
I'm thinking 20 people would be a good number for a singular individual to lead a course. I think more than that would be a bit much. And 10 to 20 people would feel fulfilled, because honestly, 20 is pushing it a little bit, but having that opportunity open would be fine. So I just want to have that enough spots open. So
Is there an age limit? Is this primarily for adults you're thinking?
I would say 14 to any age pretty much. So high school age students and forward. I want anybody pretty much to be able to participate.
It might be interesting to connect with Irwin High and see if maybe the art teachers would share it, or there's probably
yeah.
one art teacher in public school over there.
Yeah.
But, maybe that might be another way to get some teenagers
Mm-hmm.
involved.
Yeah, and and hitting up some arts organizations in the area or nearby, or artists themselves to tell their people. I think it's pretty much going to be, I'll make some marketing materials and put them all of the places where they can go and be effective pretty much. Yeah. Cause I'm pretty good with flyers and posts and stuff like that. So I can do that.
I think there's multiple lenses of this that will make it successful. And I commend you since you've been with us and how it's grown and you've taken different things on, but largely, looking at, the eco art aspect and creating a multi-generational space for someone 14 to be, potentially working next to someone 70.
Yeah.
They could learn and kind of take from each other.
Right.
And it's successful.
Thank you. And yeah, I know how I think comprehensive information in general is super important, and I can make the information geared towards that whole range, that most people will be able to understand. And I can answer questions and stuff like that, clarifying questions and all that stuff as we go. So, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, guys. We have a really big agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're not gonna.
Good.
Wonderful. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
all the energy.
Feel free to
and
reach out with
effort
me more
put
questions.
into the program. Excited to see it
Thank
come to
you.
fruition. Thanks, Zoe. Okay, on to new business. I think we're going to talk next about rules and procedures, reviewing for Parks Greenway Advisory Committee. Might be some updates here.
So we have some proposed updates to send to council this month for your rules of procedure that they will essentially adopt. But they're mainly in reference to the change in the membership, because with the 3 new appointees, which we're super excited are here, it's expanded our committee number. So the main changes are increasing the membership from, instead of it saying 7 members, saying 7 to 9 members. The previous draft, or the previous version, required that 4 members reside in Woodfin. This is up that to 5 members. So there's 5 members either residing in Woodfin or working in with or owning a business within the town of Woodfin. That would be the majority of the committee. There were several references throughout the document to the Board of Commissioners, and the name of that body has changed in the last couple of years to Town Council. So we've amended all those references to the correct reference. And the initial version included a requirement that we have alternate members, and we don't think that's necessary. So we're recommending to take that out. So that's the main changes to document. If there's any questions or comments, I'd be happy to take those now. Or if any issues, otherwise we'll be sending it to council next week for approval.
There was conversation about the change of name of this
Oh.
committee? Like, is that a part of
next?
that?
We'll get to that in a
too?
minute, and if we do it today, we'll change that in here too. But we can talk about it when we get to that item. You're fine.
Are we all in favor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you need a motion or anything?
We need a motion?
Do we need a motion?
Yes.
I move that we recommend approval of the changes to the rules of procedure.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on. So, as you're all aware, we've talked about expanding the scope of this committee from Parks and Greenways focus to more resiliency, sustainability, other, as Shannon referenced it earlier, livability. So here's some of the words that have come to that conversation when we're talking about expanding the committee and the focus of the committee. So I thought that might be helpful in starting the conversation about what the committee name should be. So I'll open that up to you to discuss now. If you want to take a month and think about it, we can do that. If you have ideas today, that's fine too, but I'll let you guys discuss what you think that should look like.
I've just been thinking like all of those things are about community engagement. And so my thought was something like Community Engagement Advisory Committee, because that any of those things kind of fit in.
I'm sort of on the same
Mhm.
path, but I think of enhancement or improvement.
Or enrichment?
Enrichment, yeah.
Yeah, I think I would avoid
Mhm.
engagement because that
Yeah.
means something very specific
Okay.
in government. So cohesion is good too. Yeah, but
Community engagement means more like community feedback.
Okay.
I like the enrichment.
What about something like the Public Improvement Committee or the Town Improvement Committee or the Infrastructure Improvement Committee? I don't know. That's just something
Might be a little too
too vague,
wide.
too wide.
To Public Works. My recommendation would be that we all think about it and maybe submit a couple ideas to me. And then I can put them all in one email and we could vote and then come back at our next meeting with the options, maybe the top 3 that have prevailed. Does that work? I think that might be the best use of the
Are
time.
there any other words that we should maybe steer clear from? Because like engagement, I
Right.
thought sounded great.
Great question.
Understanding that had other meanings in this forum. Are there any other terms that you think we should steer clear from or?
There aren't any that are just coming to my mind right now, but we can talk about it once we get your recommendations.
Just in terms of process, I like Coral's idea, but just as a reminder, you all are a public body, so you shouldn't be discussing business via email. It's totally okay if communication's one direction. So if Coral sends an email out to everybody and says, hey, send me your 2 best ideas, and you all reply to just her with your best ideas, and then she later says, here's a compilation, let's discuss this at our next meeting, totally okay.
So no reply all.
Yeah, don't reply all, don't engage, yeah, I like Gerald's idea, oh, I don't,
Okay.
you want to avoid that kind of
So
back and
Matt,
forth.
from you, would that be best to just BCC us on that? So that way the reply only goes to you
Sure.
when you send it. And that way if we auto reply, it won't go to everybody.
So if everybody sends 3 and she makes a list and then makes a little poll, can we vote and it go back that way?
You
So no.
can't vote via email, you're gonna have to vote in this meeting.
Okay.
Next time. And we can work it out with council so that when they adopt your rules, that they understand that they're also going to be adopting whatever your new name is, and then we'll just insert it later.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
So that's the plan?
If that works for everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Moving on, we are in need of a vice chairperson for this committee. Name TBD. So I just want to see if we have anyone interested in taking on that role. Essentially, just for clarification, if I'm not able to be here to facilitate the meeting, then I would ask the vice chair to step in and essentially run the meeting. It's pretty easy.
I don't mind doing it, but I think I might be rotating off very soon. So that would
I
just
think
be
you're right.
a consideration.
Yeah, you're right. So you can't do it. Thank you, though.
Coral, I'd be happy to take that on.
Thank you, Eric. Do we need to take a motion on that? Okay.
I move to appoint Eric vice chair.
I second that.
All in favor?
Right.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Great.
I just need to figure out what the name of our committee is if I take that time. To see the scope of what it is.
Good afternoon, committee members. So this next item on your agenda kind of falls under that broader umbrella of additional or a broader scope of what might be coming before this body in the future. So as some of you may be aware, the town has initiated a process for a comprehensive development code update. And it's very common, well, it's a best practice for municipalities once they adopt a comprehensive plan to then look at their development code and other codes to see where can we alter that code so that it's in better alignment with our comprehensive plan goals. So a number of our council members our council has prioritized landscape and open space as one area that they would like to see us explore further. And much of what we will do with the development code update is going to be looking at what we already have and updating and enhancing and clarifying and reorganizing. But this is actually going to be new. This is new information. So this is new content that wasn't included in the code before. So just to give you a little bit of background, as I mentioned, these kinds of standards are commonly applied with development applications. So just like we look at building height or number of parking spaces or building setbacks, landscape and open space standards can be requirements that get applied to new construction projects. We don't apply it necessarily to all projects. So if you're doing a very small addition, a 300 square foot addition, we wouldn't necessarily have you go and apply all new landscape standards. It's really primarily focused on new construction and new construction of a certain size. We have very little today. We have very little in the way of landscape or open space requirements. We have a couple minor little applications, but they're not material and they really don't correspond to the town's vision. The town has a strategic goal to strengthen the alignment between our development code and the Woodfin Together comprehensive plan, as I mentioned, and landscape and open space standards are widely recognized to support health and wellness. That's kind of for the individuals living and working in the town, environmental health, as well as meeting other aesthetics goals. And the Woodfin Town Council voted to appoint a council subcommittee to develop landscape and open space standards, or to explore those standards at least. That committee has now met 3 times, and so they're on their way to developing those standards. So where we are, they began by identifying their primary goal, which was to balance economic development and growth with these new landscape standards that would meet those other goals that I mentioned. So we're looking at improving tree canopy, reducing urban heat island effect, reducing our carbon footprint collectively as a town, all of those positive environmental benefits, and all of the personal health benefits that come with having shaded, green, open areas that allow for light and air and all of those things that we all know provides a health benefit to people when they're in those spaces. So recognizing that as our goal, we then looked and benchmarked other communities, both in Buncombe County and just sort of in our area. We looked at other towns about our size. What kind of standards do they have? What is commonly applied? As I mentioned, we want to balance development. We don't want to disincentivize development and growth. That's an important part of our health as a community. But at the same time, we want to achieve these goals. So you don't want to necessarily go from 0 to 60. Especially when we have almost nothing in the way of landscape and open space standards today. So we I'm not saying we're starting small. We're kind of starting in the middle, not necessarily going for the premier level of landscape and open space standards. After benchmarking those communities, what did I mean? Move ahead with comprehensive code. So we are moving ahead with this particular ordinance update outside of the comprehensive code update. So this is kind of moving on a faster track. It's moving on a faster schedule. But when that comprehensive code steering committee and others are formed, when we get that process going, they'll be able to look at the landscape standards that we've adopted and decide, is that really consistent with everything else that we've looked at? Do we want to reorganize it? Is there some particular piece that we think would be really appropriate that we want to now amend? So it won't be the end. This is the starting point, but we wanted to get something in place sooner rather than later because the comprehensive code update won't really be adopted probably for another 14 to 16 months. So we didn't necessarily want to wait that long for this particular set of standards. So we have begun drafting those standards, and at our last meeting, we actually tested those draft standards on 4 sites in Woodfin. These are active construction sites or sites that were recently permitted. So we tested it. We said, okay, if this project came in the door today, what standards would apply and what would it look like? Is it achievable? Because what we don't want to do is find that we have developed standards that are impossible for development projects to satisfy. We don't want to put them in a position where they have to seek what's called a Board of Adjustment variance or an exception from our code. We want it to be something that is achievable and will actually make a difference. And so that was our goal. That is particularly challenging for redevelopment sites or sites that do significant expansions. So we wanted to make sure we tested that. And it does look like at least where we're starting on the sites that we tested, that it did look like it would work. So the current draft standards include specifically street trees, adding street trees along any road frontage and any new streets. So if you're building a subdivision, those new streets would be tree-lined streets. Buffer yards, that's buffer yards between residential zoning and commercial zoning. And the buffer yard has a planting requirement. It would be planted at a certain rate, X number of trees and shrubs for every 100 linear feet.
Will it assure a variety of?
Yeah, it includes a variety of trees, large maturing, small maturing trees and shrubs, and a certain mix of evergreen deciduous. And then vehicular use area landscaping, what we were referring to, we don't want to say parking lot landscaping, although that's probably the main vehicular use surface that we'll be measuring, but it includes driveways, maneuvering areas, the paved surface around, a gas canopy, outdoor storage, all of that becomes vehicular use area. An outdoor display lot for used cars, that's all vehicular use. And that is a definition that is a term that is defined in our code. And this code, because it is introducing new standards, would also include new definitions. Screening, that's primarily around dumpsters, storage areas, things that you don't necessarily want to see. Kind of the back of house kind of stuff we want to screen from public view. And then we are adding new open space standards, and that depends on the size of your project and the size of your property, how much space needs to be set aside for open space, and certain kinds of land qualify for open space and certain things don't. So a stormwater, I like to use this example, a stormwater retention pond does not qualify as open space unless it's designed to look like a constructed wetland or have these other features that allow for public interaction. Also included in this, those are the basic standards, but also included will be other standards related to how we apply the code. So where is it applicable? What kind of projects are going to be required to meet these standards? Maintenance of the landscaping, enforcement, tree protection and tree incentives. If you have existing trees on your property that you can save, how can those trees be measured and calculated to apply to your requirement? And then, of course, the definitions that I mentioned earlier. So that's the code in a nutshell. Those are the broad categories those aren't the specific details of it. And as an advisory body, we're just seeking your your input, your feedback on landscape and open space standards in general and any of these particular categories. There will be an opportunity for a couple of you to participate in the steering committee for the comprehensive code update. And we're going to talk about that here a little bit later on the agenda. And those individuals would be able to dive in deeper to this specific code language if that was something that was of interest to them. And it would be more than just the landscape and open space. It would be all of the development code that we're looking at. And so the next steps, as I mentioned, meet with you all, seek your initial feedback. We would complete the draft with the subcommittee. I think we're going to have one more meeting in April, early April. We're going to review the revised standards with the Planning Board of Adjustment. That is one of their responsibilities, is to review and make a recommendation to the council on any text amendments to our development code. So that is one of their statutorily assigned responsibilities. That's why we wouldn't want two public bodies to perform the same action. So we're seeking your feedback more on the high level and their feedback on the detail. And then hopefully council adoption in June. And then, as I mentioned, that consultant examination and potential future amendments, 2025, 2026. That's it. Do you have any questions? Yes.
Go ahead.
On the open spaces and the requirements for trees and other shrubbery, are there any requirements for use of natives as opposed to certain types of plants you may not wish to have?
We do. So we are recommending that you use natives, and not just natives, but natives that are appropriate to that particular plant community in what we define as environmentally sensitive areas. So riparian areas, flood zones, steep slopes. Those are our 3 environmentally sensitive areas. Everywhere else, we say we encourage natives, but you can use non-natives. I'm glad you asked that question too, because included as an appendix to this code would be a list of recommended species. And I'm just shamelessly stealing it from Asheville. They have a very robust list that a lot of professionals have weighed in on. It's a really good one. And we're going to modify it a little bit to make it a little bit more user-friendly for our purposes, but it'll largely be taken from their list. Yes, sir.
That was my question.
Okay.
I haven't kept up with the state legislation for years. I don't know if it's possible, but excuse me, have you thought of the fee in lieu possibility for open space?
We did. The committee weighed in on that. We asked that question. They didn't want to get into it. There's some statutory challenges to fee in lieu, and they just would prefer that everybody plan on incorporating open space. And so for those of you, the fee in lieu option is something that was made available and some cities took advantage of to allow developers to literally pay a fee instead of providing open space. So if your land was so valuable or you had certain kinds of development constraints and you couldn't meet that open space requirement, you had the option of paying a fee. And then that fee was supposed to be used to secure or develop open space in an area adjacent. And that language has introduced a lot of ambiguity, and people are challenging it legally now. And so I think people are backing away from that option.
We need fewer lawyers. I think of Asheville that adopted their landscape standards in 1997, the change it has made in development, and seeing it almost 30 years later. I'm excited about this, but several years.
I believe you answered this question, but this would apply to commercial and residential?
Yes. It's mostly commercial. So there are some statutory limitations in what we can apply to single-family residential, but there are some things that we can apply to subdivisions.
Okay.
So if it's a subdivision of a certain size, in our case, we put the threshold at 5 lots or more, then we can require street trees and open space. Then that's what we're doing. But we can't really require landscape requirements on individual lots, individual single-family home lots.
Has there been consideration for adding a sidewalk requirement, for example, in subdivisions? And is that, possible to have added to that if so?
Yeah, we already have some sidewalk requirements. They
Okay.
are new. So
good.
you're not too far behind that. We added them, I want to say it was last year. Last year? About a year or so ago, maybe a little over a year ago. I think my timeline is modified after the hurricane. I think I lost about 6 months. So I think it was a little over a year ago, we adopted standards for sidewalks. We have not, it only, sidewalks, kind of like landscape and open space, only get triggered when you are a development of a certain threshold. So we've had a few larger projects come through that have been permitted, but they've not been constructed. So you've not seen the sidewalk. I think the first project that you're going to see where we have sidewalk is the new Starbucks that's being built on Weaverville Highway. So
developers, if they do not meet this new criteria, they will not be issued.
they will not receive their zoning permit. Yeah. They have to meet it. It's a mandatory requirement.
Okay.
Great questions.
Well, there's just a technical question back to sidewalks. So with the street trees, they would have to be a certain offset off of the road in case sidewalks are necessary on that property.
Yeah, it's we try to design both standards in a way that gives the developer some flexibility. In some cases, it makes more sense to put a sidewalk, what we call back a curb, so right on the edge of the travel lane. In other cases, it makes more sense to offset the sidewalk. And if you're back of curb, then that tree can be on the opposite side. If you're offset, you can put the tree in that green space in between. It'll also depend on whether or not it's a DOT road or a town maintained road. The DOT doesn't really like to have trees up close to their roadways. They view them as a danger to the motoring public if somebody went off and hit a tree. So it tends to be further away. The requirement is that that tree be placed within 20 feet of the edge of pavement. Great. Awesome. Well, great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm on this one too. Sorry. This is just kind of an interesting, fun thing that I just wanted to share. And I don't think I have any other slides. Nope. So we have been talking with a lot of our community partners about recovery, long-term recovery, and what can that look like for the town, and what kind of role would they have, what would we have? So Asheville Greenworks is one of our partners that we have collaborated on with other projects in the past, most recently the cleanup in the river this last spring or last weekend. And they do a lot of other river cleanup work. And if you don't know Asheville Greenworks already, they do a lot of things, but another thing they do is they propagate plant material. And we've received 2 proposals from them at our request. We asked for this. One was for additional river cleanup. So we know that the river cleanup that's in front of us is massive. FEMA does offer some assistance for cleanup, but it only applies to debris in the waterways that they deem to be a threat to infrastructure. So it has to be within a certain distance upstream of that infrastructure. So a car that is in the middle of the river that could wash down and hit a bridge, support, that kind of thing. Or a lot of woody debris that would wash downstream in another flood and clog up a culvert. Those are the kinds of things they're looking at, and that's what they address. They do not address all of the bits of plastic and bags and pipe and little things that they don't deem a threat. So there is a lot of work that needs to happen. And when we look at the condition of our waterways and those stream banks, there's 2 things. One is cleaning up all that debris, and the second is how do we revegetate and restore those banks to protect them from erosion and just to kind of bring back wildlife and all of the good things that those plants do. And so the cleaning up is the first piece. The second piece is that replanting. And Asheville Greenworks has submitted 2 proposals. One is a relatively modest amount to assist with some additional volunteer coordination to do some additional cleanup. And this would begin after Zoe's gone. So it would be in the new fiscal year. So that would probably begin around July 1st. The second is some startup cost to establish some new greenhouses and the water lines and the other things that go with that to propagate native material. And they've got a special program that they're working on for propagating river cane, which is one of the native plants that used to be much more abundant on our rivers and streams, and to try to get some of those plants in the ground. We coincidentally have space that we lease. I don't remember the size of the property, but it's what is commonly referred to as the Craggy Motors property. If you're familiar with that, it's just south of Riverside Park. And we've talked with Asheville Greenworks about the possibility of establishing a propagation site on that property. The town's contribution to that would be supplying the property. We already lease it. We originally leased it with the intent that we would need it for construction staging and parking overflow for the park. At least for construction purposes, our contractor does not think he would need it. He can get by without it. So it's available and it's being used very little now. I shared these two proposals with our council. They liked the river cleanup proposal. They supported that and they want to incorporate that into our fiscal year 26 budget. They supported using the Craggy Motors property for the plant propagation, but were shy about the startup costs, which were in the $53,000 range. And we feel like there may be some grant money available in the community that we might be able to tap into for that.
What are the items that the 53,000 would pay for?
I'm trying to remember. It was, I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 hoop houses, greenhouses, the infrastructure for that, the water lines, the spigots, some of the materials, propagation materials, I think maybe some of the medium to get started, things like that, those kind of startup.
That seems like a reasonable cost.
Yeah. I think they have access to supplies that maybe the rest of us don't have quite as easy access to. It makes it a little bit more affordable. I'm not sure if they have money from another source and this is just what they need to round it off. I'm not entirely sure, but I think those were the startup costs that they felt like they just needed to get it started.
So that's a site to grow vegetation and then plant along the rivers just locally.
Yeah. I mean, we would love a lot of that to be applied in Woodfin, but it wouldn't necessarily be limited to Woodfin. It's meant to kind of just help restore the area in general.
Is that property above flood level?
No. That's a drawback, but these kind of greenhouse structures they're not permanent structures. I would call them semi-permanent structures. They're not easily dismantled and removed.
Right.
But in terms of getting material out, I think you could get your material out if you felt like if we had the advance warning of another hurricane like we had this time, you'd be able to get a lot of that out. You probably couldn't save the structures, but maybe there's some things you could do.
The 53K is Asheville Greenworks' responsibility? Or are they asking us?
That was the proposal that they shared. Like it would cost us this much, or all of us collectively, this much to get this program started.
And our contribution would be the space.
Well, that's what our council supported. So I brought the whole, I brought the whole proposal to the council in their budget work session yesterday, and they said yes to using the property, no to taking general fund money and, supporting the startup costs. But that conversation just happened yesterday. So not knowing the outcome of that conversation, I just wanted, a placeholder on your agenda just to kind of share these ideas with you. So, and so I would just ask, as advocates for these kind of livability, this livability focus that we've talked about, if you in your networks become aware of some funding source that could be considered for something like this, we'd just like you to keep this project in mind and share that information with us. Yeah.
Would this be like a long-term partnership with Greenworks that could kind of be there for?
Yeah, so that's another thing that would have to be ironed out if we choose to move forward with this. We don't have, that lease was originally a 5-year lease. I think we have about 2.5 years left on the lease. So we would either have to renew the lease or relocate the greenhouses or have somebody else take over the lease, that would have to be part of
Gotcha.
the
The town leases that property from someone else. You're not leasing
Yes.
it to.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
Correct. So
Okay.
that's our contribution, is paying the
lease
lease on it. Yeah, the lease fee.
So this is like French Broad River Academy, girls, Coyote Motors, and then the park, the wave. Okay.
That's it. It's got a chain link fence around it. It's got that little kind of rust colored building that's not in the best shape. Anyway, just wanted to share that with you guys.
Thank you.
All right.
So this should probably have been titled volunteer opportunities because the second one came along after the agenda went out. But the first, we have 2 steering committees that we're looking for representation from this group for. The first one is the Woodfin Weaverville feasibility study. I don't know if you're all familiar with that, but we got grant funding for a feasibility study for a Greenway connection from Woodfin and somewhere in Woodfin to Weaverville. And so that's just getting started, and the steering committee is forming. And so we're looking for one of you to serve on that committee. The second one is the code update that Shannon was just referring to, and she did the landscaping standards update. You want 2?
Ideally.
We're looking for 2 of you to serve on that steering committee to give them feedback through that project when it gets started. They just chose the consultant for that, so that'll be getting started soon as well. So 1 for Woodfin and Weaverville, 2 for the code update.
Adrian, do you know how many meetings you will have just for the feasibility study?
No, I don't.
I know for the code update, we're looking at somewhere between 5 and 8, so probably I would say 6-ish.
Over how many months? 16, 15, 16?
Yeah, I think once the committee starts meeting, it would maybe be about 12 months. For the first 12 months. Meetings usually an hour and a half to 2 hours long, I would say. And so those would be meetings outside of PJ's.
Light snacks.
Yes, we will provide snacks. Maybe even cake.
Oh.
Yeah.
The
Maybe once in a while.
The Woodfin Weaverville will probably be a little bit less than that if it's anything like the walk bike Woodfin plan we're working on right now, the comprehensive pedestrian plan. I think they'll meet 4 times before it's over, and that's about a year-long project. So
Are these opportunities open to the public or just committee members at this point?
each one has a certain population of people that they want the committee to be made up of. So this is just one representation.
Mhm.
The Parks and Greenways Advisory Committee is one representative on that committee.
And so they usually ask for 8 to 12 steering committee members, depending on what the project is. So in our case, we're shooting for 8 to 10 for the code update. You all might not
Not
be as
quite that
big.
many.
Yeah, probably not that many. And some of those, so usually what they do is they say, like for our case with the code update, they'll say, we want 2 members from your planning board, or 1 or 2 members from your planning board, 1 or 2 members from your Parks Advisory Board, 2 members of the general public, a business owner. Like they try to create a diverse cross-section with a combination of lay people and other people who may have a little bit more sophisticated background or knowledge on that particular topic.
It's a short-term thing. So it's just outside of the meetings, there's not going to be any additional work required necessarily unless you just want to get that into it. But it'll be just the consultants will give you things to give them feedback on.
So what type of expertise are you looking for this one?
I don't know about expertise, but just, why are you part of the Parks and Greenways Advisory Committee kind of lens?
Mm-hmm.
So, it would help to know walkability and being interested in greenways and things like that. But they just want somebody from this realm of our government to serve on that, give their feedback.
I don't think most steering committees don't require an expertise in it. It's just helpful if people have a familiarity.
Yeah.
With some of it.
I'll do the code update since you provide snacks.
Cake. Perhaps somebody who is a bike commuter would be a good fit for this one?
So full disclaimer, Anne's husband is on the Walk Bike Woodfin steering committee. So that's been helpful to get his feedback, for that purpose. So I just wanted to share that.
And when does this one meet?
I don't know yet. We're just forming the committee now, and then we'll know more about but it'll be every 3 or 4 months, just for a couple hours.
I mean, I would be interested, but no one else is.
Do it. I've spread myself thin these days with my 2 kids.
I hear you.
I
And
think
it's okay. We don't mean to pressure you guys. It's really more like if there's interest, if you have a specific interest, we'd love to have you.
I think it's a really neat idea, so I'd be interested.
You're
No one
interested? Anybody else interested?
I guess it relates to the Walk Bike Woodfin that I've already been a part of, so I'm interested just for the continuation of that, I guess, but if there's
see.
one position.
One for that one,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I think that you should,
Okay. Well, if you're sure,
I'm sure.
I'm happy to.
Okay, great.
Any second takers for the code update?
What are you looking for as far as like Anne's question of like, is there a level of expertise you're looking for that?
No, it's going to be, they'll share with you like kind of what the goals are. Like, I think what I would expect our consultants to do is they'll help with staff run those committee meetings, and they'll have certain goals, and they'll look primarily for sort of big picture feedback. Anybody who wants to dive into the details, certainly they would welcome that, but they're not necessarily looking for that. I would say if you have an interest in how Woodfin may grow and develop over time, this is a good one for you to kind of dive in on. We're particularly interested post Hurricane Helene. What kind of lessons have we learned? What can we avoid in the future? How can we design our communities in such a way that we're more resilient? So,
How many volunteers are you looking for on this one?
for the code update, 1 to 2 members from this body.
You're
It's a
interested in
great way-
doing,
So
as
we have
Shannon said,
Gerald.
It's a great way to influence what the town will look like in 10 or 20 years. You have to have a longer perspective, but have that vision, and then you work backwards to deconstruct it into what you have to do to achieve that vision.
Yeah, if you have to volunteer, if you have space for another. Great.
thank you.
Thank you.
Staff.
Yeah. So I'll just give you a couple updates of what's been going on since we last met. Some of you've heard this a few minutes ago at the orientation, but so for the Woodfin Greenway Blueway, Riverside Park, as we mentioned, the stream make repair is underway. If you noticed, we lost a good portion of the riverbank there in the existing park, so they're working on that now. That project included some repair to the cofferdam, which was surprisingly not too damaged in the storm, but there was some debris in the cofferdam that could be used for the wall, so they thought it would be good to go ahead and get that back intact so they could start working on collecting that material. We're still working through the process with FEMA for the repair to the damages caused by Helene. All the site visits have been completed on both parks. So now we're just waiting on, we've submitted the application. So now we're just waiting to see what they come back with on those. But that's for Riverside Park, that's existing. So for the expansion side, once the stream bank repair work is complete, we'll start looking at getting the wave restarted. So we're hoping to get back in the river in the next couple months. Silverlawn Park, same kind of thing. Still waiting on FEMA, but we are planning to draft bid documents for that project to be solicited in the next couple months. And the hope is it will be under construction for repair and reconstruction by the summer. That project will not only include the damage repairs, but it'll also include the restrooms that we've talked about the last year. We have that budget, so we'll go ahead and add that to that contract. The Greenways, we don't have much of an update there. We're waiting feedback from Buncombe County on the status and the next steps on that. Any questions about parks and greenways?
I just have a question. Is Silverline has been closed? I know it sounds like it did an awesome cleanup over the weekend, right? Is there an idea when to get it open to the public or not?
I don't think it'll be officially open to the public again until after reconstruction is complete, because that'll be starting soon. So, it won't be
So it's
officially
like
open
leave it
until,
closed, have the bathrooms all done, and then.
yeah. I don't think it can be open while construction's happening. So,
Got it. Okay.
I was gonna ask, because it looks like it's being used as a staging area for.
it's not anymore. Yeah. They were some kind of water testing company that was helping out through the storm for places like the hospital and things like that. So they were pretty important to the response, but they're gone now.
This is Silverline Campground.
Yeah, exactly. Anything else?
RVs and, yeah.
I think I remember there being some talk about having to remap the river bed for the wave, or just rechecking to make sure that things are still what they were when they got the original read on how to put the rocks in the right way. Is there like an update on that, or am I imagining that?
I don't.
Do you remember that? Okay.
Yeah, the Army of Engineers
Army
had to
Corps
like,
of Engineers.
Army Corps, thank you, had to like do the zoning over again, or?
No, it was not the Army Corps. I think what you're thinking of is the people
The S2O?
designing the way the S2O dreams
Oh, it's
wanted
S2O.
another
Okay.
shot at what the bottom of the stream bed looked like to
Okay.
see if there was any change in bedrock or anything there to decide.
Yeah.
Yes, something to that effect.
I didn't hear the first part of the question, I'm sorry.
They said that the bottom of the riverbed needed to be checked before we could start the wave.
Oh, yeah, so what we were concerned about is post-storm, the surface water levels appeared to be different than pre-storm, which was really confusing to us because it appeared to be running higher, but we know that the river channel got wider during the event, so it wasn't making sense to us. And so we were concerned that we would have to redesign the wave because it wasn't designed for surface water levels that were that high. The good news is with more data collection and everything, it's not. It's pretty much what it was before the storm. So that concern has really been largely mitigated and resolved. We did have to do a little bit of re-engineering, or it was recommended that we consider a little re-engineering, mostly to make the structure more resilient for future events. So that if we did, and also if the dam was removed downstream. So it just gave us more flexibility to amend or alter that structure in the future to accommodate different flows. So we thought that was a good idea, and so we're moving forward with that modification.
Did they check during that process to make sure that there was no debris under where the wave is supposed to be that might pose a danger, like a car or rebar, stuff that got, washed down?
They have not, but they will be, that coffer dam is going to be built and then it's dewatered. So you're working directly on the bedrock of the river, and then they'll do that on the other side. So they'll know when they build it.
That's good.
I have a question just regarding commerce this summer. And obviously like Zen Tubing was using Silverline as a takeout. Two questions, everything I'm getting from Mountain True is that water quality is actually pretty decent. And are they going to be able to commercially use the river this summer?
They had a permit last summer, but they never used the parts.
So they did actually start with permitting.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
They did. They used the permit.
Not last year.
Oh,
not
permitting
last
for
year.
Silver to take out at Silverline. Right.
Yes, take out at Silverline. So sorry, it was the year before they actually took out there, but then Adrian said they had a permit last summer, but they didn't use it.
They didn't use it.
And they haven't approached us this year yet So
My understanding is the first year that they got the permit, they were modifying their normal routes because water levels were so extraordinarily low.
Okay.
And so some of their other
Mhm.
routes weren't really operational, and Silverline became more optimal because of those conditions. So I imagine last summer's permit was a safety net.
it was.
And when the conditions were okay, they didn't need it and they just didn't use it. I participate in the French Broad River Partnership, their business and recreation conversation about all of the water, outdoor industry, water related, river related businesses and whether or not they're going to make it. I haven't been to, I was not able to make the last meeting, and so I'm not sure what the status of things are now, but it does not look great. I think between sites being closed, the general, like, how appealing will it be to tourists to travel a river that's pretty hammered, and then the debris, and how safe is the river based on all of it, and all the construction that's going on. So I'm not super optimistic.
Thank you. Anything else on Parks and Greenways? Moving on, I was going to expand my update to include stormwater now since we're expanding our scope. So just a quick Helene update. We, in addition to the park applications, we also have public assistance applications for our roads and culverts that were damaged in the storm. We recently solicited 4 bids to an RFP services to the damages from Helene responses in that solicitation, and we've narrowed that down. We're starting that work in the next couple of weeks. Right now we're in contract negotiations, but hopefully we'll get help us determine what needs to be done to the damages, if we can include any hazard mitigation in our repairs, and they'll help us put the bid documents together for the construction documents for that work.
Could you tell us who they are?
Whether's Ravenel.
Okay.
They had extensive experience working with FEMA, so that was one of the selling points to choosing them. And then I just wanted to make you aware, we have what's called a municipal separate storm sewer system permit, MS4 for short, for good reason. And it is a permit through the state of North Carolina. It's through the federal government that's delegated to the state delegates it to us. And it is for stormwater management within the town of Woodfin. We have a 5-year permit cycle that we are responsible for managing that stormwater permit. We had some issues in the past with the permit. We ended up getting fined over not doing what we were supposed to do. It's a long story. But we're getting out of that now. And that permit, we just submitted our final draft stormwater management plan to the state for that 5-year plan. And they'll just send us back some comments on that plan from what I understand. And we should have our permit renewed in July. So we'll be doing being a little bit more proactive with our stormwater management, and we'll want you to be involved with some of that.
Just for my own education, how does this coordinate with MSD? Is there any overlap between stormwater and metropolitan sewer and what they're doing?
As far as the infrastructure, there's some, probably not so much in the town of Woodfin than maybe the city of Asheville, but I don't really know how to answer that question.
Okay, just trying to kind of understand the scope of the stormwater initiatives that we would be looking at versus
So-
things that are being handled by other agencies.
It's completely separate. The MS4 permit has different minimum measures is what they call it. So there's a lot of public outreach and education requirements, volunteer opportunities that we have to put on, regulation of post-construction stormwater runoff. So it's specific requirement. Maybe at the next meeting, I'll go over the details of what is in that permit, because that might help you understand kind of where I'd want you to be participating. Other projects, we talked about the Woodfin and Weaverville feasibility study. There's not a whole lot that's happened there other than getting the steering committee set up. So maybe I'll have some more next meeting updates there. community garden update. If I think you're all aware that the Geneva Maney Park is being converted to a community garden. We've had the water line installed back in January, and they just today installed the tap. Woodfin Water did that for us. So that's all ready to go. We have some fence repair work that's slated to start the next couple of weeks, and the catch basin at the end of the property, that we included that in our FEMA damages. So hopefully they'll help us repair some of that too. So I think we'll be getting ready to get started by summer. So that's exciting. Walk bike Woodfin update. I just want to let you know there's a public meeting. It's a drop-in meeting at Newbridge Baptist Church on March 26th from 4:30 to 7. They'll have some information about the current feedback from the steering committee and where the proposals are for new or enhanced pedestrian facilities. So I hope you can make it to that. And then now I'm going to turn it back over to Zoe to give you an update on the volunteer activities this past weekend.
Yeah, just like to sum up everything, we had 51 people on Saturday and show up, and then we had 45 on Sunday, filled up the entire dumpster. That was completely full. We made a huge pile of debris. It's basically like outside of the fact that it needs to be, like construction needs to happen. It visibly and physically is able to be used by community, even though we're not open. Like nobody's gonna get reprimanded if they do. So it's not fully open, but yeah. So I am working with John and Amaya from Mountain True and Greenworks. We're definitely going to be doing more cleanups. We're going to get on the river really, really soon. We were also talking about doing something, like John and I were talking about doing an accessibility-based one where it's more geared towards people with disabilities and such. So that's going to happen for sure. And then, we did some invasives removal on Sunday as well because we basically ran out of stuff to do. So on the little inlet from the street that the water goes down when it rains to the river, we cleaned that out a little bit, got some blackberry, some bittersweet, a bunch of stuff out of there. So that's great. And that's pretty much all. I also wanted to share with you guys, there's a summit, a conference that I participated in back home in Cincinnati a couple years ago. I helped coordinate the art gallery there. It's like the biggest sustainability summit in the region. And then the next year I participated in the art gallery, but I decided to take a shot in the dark and submit to go speak. And I got accepted. So I will be representing the town in AmeriCorps in Asheville to go talk about communal cohesion and post-Hurricane Helene around town and how important that is. So I just wanted everybody to know that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Unless anybody has any questions about the cleanup or anything like that, we're definitely going to be getting more on the calendar very soon. So
is it possible, and this is more like or Adrian too, is it possible to have the park kind of open and close and open and close? Like, I just feels kind of sad to me that it could be used, but we're waiting on how important or can it be opened until the construction happens, or is it unusable or unsafe somehow before the construction?
That's the part that we worry about, and so we don't really want to make it. We don't want to make a statement that yes, the park's open, come on down and hang out. We're not going to kick you out of the park, but I don't know that we want to advertise that it's open quite yet. We don't know kind of exactly what we're dealing with, so that's why I agree with you, but I just don't think it's safe to advertise it too heavily.
How does the general public find out about these events, these cleanups?
Through Greenworks, Mountain True, our website, we post about it. That's how we did it last time. And we're actually going to get our volunteer database going. So for the next cleanup, I'm going to have a streamlined process for everybody to use. And yeah, because we were going to do it for the Parks Ambassador program. And then, that got all pushed back, which is still here. And that will still be here for everybody to use, even if I'm gone when things happen with that. But yeah, so we're going to get that started before the next.
Also wanted to share that I saw the cleanup listed in on ABL today, which is a really great platform for sharing information. I don't know if that came through. It might have come through like Mountain True.
Yeah, I'm sure it did.
But for future reference, people pay attention to ABL today. It's a great way to.
Mountain Express too, I should hit up. Yeah, because I'll put it up.
Definitely.
Can I ask a question for French Broad River Academy? As far as usage of that ramp, we're going to end up sending just staff members on some specific pieces of river to check out what is there for determining if it's going to be safe or whatnot. And so my first question is could we use that ramp to put in at? The second question is could we use that ramp for students to put in at before the park is opened? Would I contact you on a one-on-one basis to ask that question?
If you can just let me know ahead of time that you're doing it, it should be fine.
Okay, thanks.
Just in case I get questions about what's going on.
100%. I'll be in contact.
I got another question about Zoe's position. I know that you've kind of served your allowed time. Will there be continuation of an AmeriCorps position for the town moving into the next year?
We don't know. We're being pretty conservative with our budget next year because we don't know exactly how the storm has affected our revenue streams. And so it doesn't look like we're going to be adding any new positions in the immediate future. I would like to, one of my strategic goals is to figure out how to continue that, at least the initiatives that Zoe's put into place, because I think they're super important and it's great work by her. So I don't want to let them, but it's something that's on our radar. I just don't think it's feasible this next fiscal year.
Any other questions? Comments? Okay, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ooh.
You're super official here.
Great.